evening, Mr. Benjamin.
Good evening, Beatrice.
I hope all is well. I remember meeting on the International Literacy Day. It's nice to finally have you here on studio.
Pleasure
And
meeting.
now diving to our conversation tonight as we're looking at the phasing out of the 844 system. We're having the last cohort of the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education team this year. Perhaps you can take us through what are the hits and misses of the 844 system.
Okay, once again, thank you so much, Beatrice, for once another opportunity to meet and have a conversation which has a national importance. And also, maybe to correct my title, is a chief manager. I'm not a director of Sunrise Virtual School, and greetings from Sunrise Virtual School. All right, now you asked me a question about the hits and misses of the 844. I would say that from the onset of this conversation, Beatrice, there is no perfect education system or system of education in the world. All systems of education always undergo a review, or even they are scrapped off at some point, because the society we're living in is very dynamic. We are living in an ever-changing society. And so I want to lay my foundation of today's discussion by saying, honestly, we don't have a perfect education system. Now, back to the question, the hits and the misses. I want to say that the 844 system, which is now being replaced in phases by the CBC, competence-based curriculum, has been with us now close to 40 years. 30-something years, going to 40 years. That's around 4 decades. And looking at it, I'll look at some hits, so to speak, the pros of it in a 3-way. Number one, this curriculum, today, most industries in this country are being run by products of 844. And I believe you and I are products of 844. And it has its own strengths. And it has really, number one, been a curriculum which has had actually a broad number of subjects, which has actually given learners or the people who have gone through it exposure to actually overstretching their minds in a way, in the sense that they have, many people have gone through this system, have gained a lot of knowledge and skills, and have been able to do exploits in this world. Today, I'm told if you go to maybe US and you find a Kenyan who has really gone through the system, they adapt easily there. And Kenyans are known to be very hardworking. Number two, I would say also this system has provided also Kenyans with opportunity to explore and advance their talents and interests through curriculum activities. You look at the sports, music, clubs, and we produce phenomenal people in this country through 844 due to that, due to the co-curriculum activities. And lastly, I would say also we've produced a really alumni of this system who have done so well in the world and doing well in the world map when it comes to impacting lives and causing change. Those are some of the few hits, if so to speak, if I can say, about this system, among others. Some of the disadvantages of the system has been that this system has been somehow rigid. And I believe that's why actually many people have really been agitated for it to be reviewed. It's been rigid in the sense that it's not been really responsive to the societal changes and the dynamics of the society. A system ought to be customizable to suit the needs of the society, the learners' needs, and also the globe. Looking at the global perspective of how the globe is moving on, our system has not been very flexible to, for example, adopt issues to do with globalization, climate change, issues to do with digital literacy, issues to do with gender, gender equity, etc. So as such, we need a system which can be so flexible, not rigid, to really be responsive to these emerging global trends, so that it can be in line with what is happening in today's society. Lastly, this system has been very much exam-centered. And so for so doing, this system has really put a lot of pressure onto the learners to perform because of the expectations. Because it was like the grades were the main thing here. You know, you are ranked, and if you don't attain this kind of grade or pass rate, it means that you cannot transit to the next level, and also you cannot be absorbed maybe into tertiary colleges, vocational colleges, universities, and so it put a lot of pressure onto the learners. And I know you've heard recently, and some years back, kids committing suicide for not achieving some grades, you know, and as such, this cutthroat competition has been the most undoing thing about the system, the 844 system. So somehow it was inevitable. It was inevitable that this system needed to be reviewed or completely overhauled or scrapped per se.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin, Chief Manager. Sorry, my apologies for calling you Director.
No worries.
And moving on, you have put out the misses of the 844 system.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could tell us whether the competency-based curriculum is the antidote to the misses of that 844 system.
Thank you, Beatrice, once again. I'll tell you, looking at on paper, this curriculum, in a competence-based curriculum, the one now which was first introduced in 2017, it's a brainchild of KICD, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. On paper, it's one of the best. Honestly, it's very good. And if you talk to the teachers who are on the ground teaching this and implementing this curriculum, they'll tell you it is. Because I personally, where I am, I work mostly with the international system, but I've taught the local system, the 844 system, high school, secondary, and now I'm actually managing a Cambridge system, which is an international curriculum. And I can compare both of them and tell you that CBC is now really more of a world-class curriculum. And well, as much as it may not be really the answer because of some challenges we have in implementing it, it is very good because if you look at it, it's, for number one, it's not based really on this, the end product. You know, the 844 was more of the grade. And it was more of summative evaluation as compared to the CBC, which is this child is evaluated on stages. You don't have to study for 8 years, and then your grade or your pass in life is determined within 3 days, and you have been studying for 3 years. You know, so CBC comes in to answer that. In that, it's not focusing on that end assessment or evaluation there. We are looking at activity-based learning and also formative evaluation at various stages, so that the learner is also not only that not only doing this was so-called rote learning or cramming or something like that, but they are learning through activities, and it's easy to internalize content when you learn through activities. You know, there's a famous saying by Chinese that I see, I forget. I hear, I remember. I do, I understand. And if you look at that saying, it is CBC to that effect, because what the learners are doing is they are learning through activities, and they're also relating the same to real life situation. So I feel it's somehow answering some of the challenges we've been having in the 844, but also looking at it, although you haven't asked me about the challenges about the same, it is also coming with its own challenges if you compare with 844, the issues of cost, resources, infrastructure, etc. etc. Yes, so it is somehow answering some of the questions we have.
And now, so the competency-based curriculum is more skill-based and more vocational-based. But now, looking back in history, we have the 844 system in the 1980s. That is in the Moise regime.
Yeah.
It came in with 13 subjects. And now the CBC is coming with 14 subjects, and we have technical subjects like the likes of home science. And moving forward, there was an issue that I was doing comparison between the two subjects. There was a task force, that is the Kamunge report, that was given to give a report on the same given the challenges and the recommendations that they were facing. And similarly, they talked about the reduction of subjects because of the workload. Because learners were moving from one class to another class with the workload with the other class which they were from not finished yet. So they needed to reduce the workload. And the same report in our presidential task force, they suggested the reduction of the subjects, which eventually led to the 844 system now being very exam-oriented from being competency-based. Now, do you see that if Kenya is capable of successfully learning the competency-based curriculum?
Honestly, there are myriad. There are so many challenges, and I would say, yeah, if the government is doing what it's doing now currently, like reviewing and trying to have task forces to look into it, to see how best it can be implemented. Because looking at, as you've said, Kamunge report, you know, there was those pre-vocational courses which were being introduced in primary, the network, electricity, building and construction, you know, to prepare learners for vocational trainings later in life. And it was too costly then. It was too costly, and I think that's the time it was scrapped off because of the cost and the issue of covering the syllabus and all that. But now it seems like almost we are somehow going back, but this time in style. Because if you look at CBC in paper, the proponents of this curriculum end in mind, really, they are trying to be very responsive to current trends in terms of society. If you look at the core competencies they are looking at, you know, the issues of digital literacy, it's somehow trying to answer the current global challenges, but the challenges we have in implementing this system is more of the human resources, the teachers. For example, now we're in grade 7. I believe this system should be fully, the 844 should be fully scrapped up in 2027. And already there are a lot of outcries there that the teachers who are teaching these, you know, the grade 7 is being domiciled within primary school compound. There is that issue of who is supposed to teach these. There's the issue of resources now. There's home science. Do we have the labs? Do we have the, you know, the resources? Do we have computers? You know, do we have electricity? Like, look at these, you know, marginalized regions or semi-arid regions, nomadic regions. Do we have electricity? And since this curriculum seems to require those activities, you know, the digital literacy, etc. So I believe the government is in the right track, trying to address these challenges, but honestly, they are big challenges. They're big challenges, yeah.
And now looking back at the 844 system in the 1980s, we have an 844 system that is already going on. Why not to bring in an advanced 844 system, bringing in the subjects that maybe may include adding teachers? Now, looking at the problems that they were facing then was the likes of infrastructure. That those are the same challenges that we were facing in the competency-based curriculum. Why not advance the 844 system then? Are we offering the same thing, trying to justify expenditure?
I honestly don't know whether we are trying to justify expenditure. Let me give you also some historical background. You know, the education, you know, education budget, as like in the early 2000s, I think it was around 12% or something, and then it was reviewed to 17% or thereabout. And now we are at 27. If you look at the budget, 27% of the, you know, the budget we have for this financial year, 2023 to 2024, we are at 27 point something percent, meaning more resources compared to the, you know, previous governments. More resources in this current government are being allocated to education, but they are still not enough. I personally, I think the resources are not really proportional to the demand. You know, let me also say, you know, there is a policy which was introduced over 100% transition in 2000, if I'm not wrong. I think 2022 during Uru's, not 2022, during Uru's regime, they reduced that policy for, you know, for 100% transition, so that those kids who are in primary, all of them transit to high school. You know what that means? Pressure on the existing infrastructure, resources, and as much as the government has tried, even the capitation we were talking about the other day, they are trying to allocate more more finances, like this year, about 600 billion to education, it seems like it's a drop in the sea. So we're still not yet there. Yeah.
Now, as we are concluding, I would like to talk about the grading system. Now, those are some of what I would call the hits, because of a lack of a better word, in the 844 system. It was very clear to separate the students who are performing and those who are not performing. In terms of organizations, the likes of Wings to Fly, that choose to support students, what is coming in is another grading system, average, below average. What impact are we expecting to see in terms of the grading system and the way the finances are being run?
You know, when a new curriculum comes in, even not only the maybe Wings to Fly, also the public universities and private universities, they have also to align. Actually, it's normally a challenge. They have to align their curriculum and their programs to fit into these products which are coming from primary and secondary. So the grading system is really interesting for CBC, because we're trying to avoid this competition which has been characterized in 844. So the grading system is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, you know, did not meet expectation, approaching expectation, meeting expectation, and maybe, you know, they have gone beyond expectation. Somehow, I believe the developers have a system of selecting, because at the end of the day, you know, in performance, we talk of normal curve. We love always the normal curve. We have some extreme ones who go beyond the expectation. Majority were considered at the middle, and some little numbers on the extreme who do not make it to the averages. And I believe the experts who are handling this have the way of selecting, because we have to get engineers, we have to get doctors, we have to get journalists like you, we have to get teachers like me. And so I believe, and I say it again, I think recently the ministry announced something to effect that they have advised the universities to align their curriculum in preparation for the CBC. So somehow every system has to be aligned, so that there is no, you know, misses here and there. Yeah.
And now, Mr. Benjamin, well, thank you for your wonderful insights. And there's a lot to talk about when we discuss about curriculums, but time is not on our side. Could you kindly give us your parting shot?
Well, my parting shot is that there's a saying that it's better to be a dissatisfied Socrates than to be a satisfied pig. You know, education is important. You know, Socrates was a philosopher, and you know, many people would say, like, why should I go to school now that there are issues, challenges of education? The other day we saw NYS, 7,000 people rushing to compete for 350 positions in the KDF. You know, we cannot ignore. Education is all we need, and we cannot ignore it. It will change our way we look at life. Whether you're employed or not, just go for it.